Welcome into NFL on 365 Sports. I'm your host, Grayson Grundhoefer, and today we are talking all about the New England Patriots draft class, so let's do it. Welcome to the channel, everyone. Today, of course, we're continuing our draft recaps. We're talking about the New England Patriots draft class and kind of what they're trying to build, coming off of a really productive season in which they found their next franchise quarterback in Mac Jones. And now it's just all about how do you build around him? How do you make him even better to go along with a strong running game and a strong defense? Well, let's see how they did. Let's start with their first round pick 29, and probably the most discussed draft pick in the entire first round, as it probably should have been. They took UT-Chattanooga offensive lineman Cole Strange. And listen, I think that there's probably a misconception. People are talking about this pick because of how early it was, which is totally factual. But I don't think it does justice to just how good Cole Strange actually is. So 6'5", 307 pounds. The dude's got 45 starts at left guard in college, 1 start at center. He has played a lot of football. A whole lot of football. He absolutely knows how to play. He's very instinctual, very quick with his reads, and honestly, a very good player if he's in the right system, which, wait for it, yes, the Patriots are a perfect system for him. He moves very well. He fits holes really well, and I think in the zone scheme, this is the biggest thing. In a zone scheme, it's not all about how big you are. It's not all about the measurables. What it is about is how mobile are you? How quickly can you get to the next block? And also just how instinctual are you at when you get to that next level, you're able to finish blocks. And a big part of that for the Patriots is the fact that they know they need to run the football. They know they want to run the football. And I think Cole Strange is definitely going to be able to bring that to the table for this team. He is a smaller guard. I understand that. In some pass protection, some inside zone schemes, he's probably going to have some issues. But when you get him outside or when you get him to the second level is truly where he is going to thrive. I think it's also important to note he can start right away. I mean, the dude's played a lot of football. He's going to be able to go in and start at left guard immediately, which I think was a big reason for this pick for the Patriots. I will say that there are some things that the size obviously is the thing that's going to be talked about the most. But I think my biggest issue and everyone's biggest issue is where he was taken in the draft. They could have gotten him in the second round. They could have traded down, tried to add another pick or two to trade this pick, and they just didn't do it. And so I think that's probably the most intriguing part about this pick and what is going to make Cole Strange one of the most talked about rookies this year, because if he doesn't have a good year, if he falls flat on his face, people are going to be talking about it a whole lot about how the Patriots missed on another draft pick. Moving on to round 2, pick 50, another reach here, and another guy that they probably could have traded back to get. But again, the Patriots felt like this guy in particular was a perfect fit for what they're trying to do on the offensive side. And that is Baylor wide receiver Tyquan Thornton at pick 50. 6'2", 181 pounds. Ran that blazing 4.28 40, had a 36.5-inch vertical. The athleticism is off the charts. The speed is off the charts. And he fits exactly what they're trying to do in New England because they need a big play option for Mac Jones. And they tried to get that with Nelson Agholor, and it did not work out. So now they go get him. They're able to kind of clear things up for Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Jacoby Myers in the intermediate and short passing game, but they need someone who's really going to threaten safeties deep downfield. And honestly, Tyquan is going to do that. He 100% is going to bring that to the Patriots offense. Now, is he a complete wide receiver at this point? No, there are some holes in his game, which I'll get to in a minute. But his final year at Baylor, 62 receptions for 948 yards, 10 touchdowns. He broke out as a sophomore with 782 yards and 5 touchdowns as well. So he had 2 outstanding years, a mediocre freshman year in which he showed a few flashes, and an absolutely terrible junior year during a COVID year in which that Baylor team was really, really bad, especially offensively. I wouldn't hold it against him, even though I think many people will. And if you turn on the tape, I kind of see a reason why you should. But I think his other 2 years really stand out and kind of push him above what was a really bad junior season. Like I mentioned, he's a burner. He's going to make plays deep downfield. He's got really nice hands. He catches the ball really well. Even though he's got small hands, he does catch the ball well and uses his hands effectively to create a nice catch radius. And he's a guy with pretty sure hands, especially in the intermediate and short routes. I also really like what he does after the catch. He's not very elusive, but obviously when he catches the ball and turns upfield, if there's no one there, you have problems. You're probably giving up a touchdown because his speed is very evident. He's shown that quite a few times, especially in 2019 versus Oklahoma State, and then this past year against West Virginia. When the guy catches the ball in the open field and no one's around, like I said, you're giving up a massive play or a touchdown. Now, as far as weaknesses go, contested catches, not great. Not great down the sideline, not elite in the red zone, even though he does show some flashes. It's not consistent enough for me, and he's also not great at intermediate routes. That's something he's definitely going to have to work on at the next level because everything he did at Baylor for the most part was slants, hitches, go routes. Those are all NFL routes, but it's those intermediate routes that I do think he's going to need some work if he wants to turn into a more complete wide receiver at the next level. Moving on to round 3, pick 85, Houston cornerback Marcus Jones, 5'8", 174 pounds. But this guy is really fun to watch on tape. I think he's going to be a very good slot corner. He's fast, he's twitchy, he's explosive. I think he's going to fit in really well to a Darius Slay role for this Patriots defense, kind of what you've seen for the Eagles, which is where Slay plays right now. I think Marcus Jones could play that at the next level. Now, you match that with the fact that he's probably the best special teams player in this entire draft class. 3 punt return touchdowns, 6 kick return touchdowns in his career at Troy and Houston. That's just, unheard of. That is absolutely fantastic. So he'll play right away on special teams, and I think he'll also probably start for the Patriots year one as, like I said, a slot cornerback, a guy that will play probably 50% of the snaps, depending on how many times they are going to want a slot cornerback out there. He also has 9 interceptions during his career, again, at Troy and Houston, which is great as well. He's always around the ball. He's always making plays, and between the special team stuff and the interceptions, I just see a guy that's a playmaker. And that's what you want on your team. That's what you want on your roster. He also played some wide receiver, so there's some versatility there. I know some people have talked about him potentially playing wide receiver at the NFL level. Very intrigued by that. I don't know if that'll quite work out, but he does at least have some film of that during his time at Houston. Size is an issue. We've talked about that. I think the size is something that he's going to be able to overcome if he does play in the slot. I'm not sure he can play out wide with that size at the NFL level. But I think, again, you're seeing a guy with great work ethic. You're seeing a guy who fits in really well with the special teams philosophy that Bill Belichick has instilled for that Patriots franchise. And you're seeing a guy that I do think has some upside because, again, of that athleticism, that twitchiness. To close out the draft, they drafted a cornerback, a running back, a quarterback, another running back, a defensive tackle, and 2 more offensive linemen. So a lot of draft picks late. I think there are 2 guys that stand out with their late picks. Bailey Zapp, the quarterback out of Western Kentucky at pick 137. Super intriguing because he played at Houston Baptist, put up a ton of numbers, transferred to Western Kentucky, and really looked awesome. This guy, 5,967 yards passing and 62 touchdowns while completing 69% of his passes. He was on fire the entire year. Now, again, he's a system guy, but on the flip side, guys that put up those kind of numbers deserve to get drafted, and I think he could be a nice fill-in as the backup quarterback, especially since they got rid of Jarrett Stidham. So now he's going to be probably the true backup behind Mac Jones, or at least make the team in my eyes. I also like Northwest Missouri State defensive tackle Sam Roberts at pick 200. 61 tackles, 18 for loss, and 6.5 sacks. While being 6'4", 287 pounds, was an all-conference guy, defense player of the year in his conference at a sub-FCS, FBS division level. But I really like him. I like his size. I like what he could bring to the table as a developmental piece for the New England Patriots. Overall, my grade for the Patriots is a C, and it's all because of how early they took guys. from Cole Strange to Tyquan Thornton. I felt like they could have gotten those guys a little bit later in the draft and therefore added a little bit more draft capital, which honestly clouds some things for me. I didn't love this draft class. I see some positives. I see some signs of good fits, but overall the talent, I just don't quite see it there for this draft class for the Patriots. So again, it is a grade of a C. So I'll be back next week to talk about a few more of these draft classes. A lot of fun continuing to go through many of these classes, some really, really good ones and some that just weren't quite up to par. But overall, a very intriguing 2022 NFL draft. But for today, I'm Grayson Grundhoefer, and this has been NFL on 365 Sports.